Quick quiz. What's that? This is a parallelogram, right? And I think I forgot to mention in the last video where we actually talked more about parallelograms, why it's called a parallelogram. If you didn't already see this because you're so sharp and on top of things, this line right here, the top, and this line right here, the base, are parallel, okay? If you didn't get a chance to really spend too much time with lines and angles and all that stuff, don't worry, because that's something that we actually get a little more involved with in 7th grade math. But for now, just make sure you understand that these two lines are parallel, which means they will always run in the same direction and they'll never touch. They're parallel, okay? That's why we call it a parallelogram. Now, why do I have a parallelogram here for a triangles lesson? Good question. It's because the next two shapes we talk about, triangles and trapezoids, their formulas for figuring out their area are actually coming from a parallelogram. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. But first, let's refresh our memories. How would I find the area of this parallelogram? What are the two things I need to know? Okay, do you remember that? Hopefully in your notes, in your journal, you have that we would have to know the length of the height. That's h, right? And we would have to have the measurement for the base. And that can be either this one or this one. All right? Because generally a parallelogram generally has both of these the same. So this is B, this is also B. And then our formula is very simple. Because remember, it's just a rectangle pushed over to the side a little bit, so it's like leaning over, right? So the area of this guy is base times height, or just B times H. You don't have to even put in the dot in there. It's A equals B times H, base times height. Now, what do I do with this? Well, I'm talking about triangles, right? And where we get the formula for actually finding the area of a triangle comes directly from here. Watch what happens when I draw a line from one corner of a parallelogram straight to the other side. See what I have now? Two triangles. And guess what? Since I drew this line to bisect, that means cut in two pieces, bisect this parallelogram, I now have two triangles that are the exact same area, okay? This triangle has the same area as this triangle. So, how does that help me find the area of a triangle? Well, basically, I just take this formula for the whole parallelogram and I cut it in half. How do I cut something in half mathematically? I just divide by 2. So I can actually take this formula, base times height, divided by 2, gives me the area of a triangle. Okay? Let's try it. Let's say that this parallelogram has a height of 4 and a base of 6. What's the area of the whole parallelogram? Well, for a parallelogram, I didn't divide it by 2 yet, so it would have been base times height. 4 times 6 is 24. But what if I just want to know the area of this triangle right here? This is the only one I care about. Well, since I already found the area of the whole parallelogram, I just have to cut it in half to find the area of that triangle. Pretty cool how that works, huh? So, if I already know it's 24 for the whole parallelogram, base times height was 24, then I'm just going to divide that by 2, and that gives me the area of the triangle. So the area of the triangle is going to be 12. And of course, whatever units I'm using, I'm going to write that as a squared unit also. If these were inches, for example, my answer would be 12 inches squared. Don't forget that, that's important. I think that's really neat. And you know, in middle school, I was never taught that. I was never taught that a triangle comes from a parallelogram. In fact, I don't think I even really knew what a parallelogram was until high school. Ugh. So I hope this makes it a little easier for you. Now, there are going to be some exercises underneath this. I have a link with some practice to do with this formula here, but I'm actually not going to do an exercise review video, okay? Hopefully this gave you a pretty good understanding of how to use this very easy and basic formula. So practice using it. Practice finding the base of a triangle and its height, multiplying those two and dividing by 2. All right? Good luck on those, and I'll actually see you in the next lesson on trapezoids, which also gets its formula from a parallelogram. See you in a bit.